Good evening, everyone. Welcome to EduTap. I'm Surbhi, and here we are at Perspective 360 Degree, where we discuss current affairs, the most important topics of current affairs for your Phase 2 examination. We also practice descriptive writing here. The entire topic discussion happens in the form of descriptive writing. And the most important part, we take your answers for evaluation entirely free of cost. Don't worry about noting down anything. You can scribble side by side. The entire content that we discuss here will be shared on our Telegram channel, that is EduTap, by tomorrow. You can find the link in the description below. So the topic for today is Multilateral Development Banks, MDBs. But before proceeding further, let me just know in the chat section if the audio is clear, voice, audio, video, both are clear. Ashok, Dipanshu, Prototype, Mronal, Deepak, Caterpillar, Preet, Anmol, Sushmita, Prabandh. Good evening, all of you. Welcome back. Welcome back. I appreciate all of you have been consistent followers of the series and consistent participants in answer writing as well. So if the audio is clear, just let me know in the chat section. All right. Thank you, Kingshuk, and welcome back. Before starting, I have a quote for you. When you take control of your own learning, you will never be bored. The quote is self-explanatory, but I think I need to explain this here. What does it mean when you take control of your own learning, you will never be bored? See, this initiative is going to be long, 100 long lectures, even more than that, and you will be asked to write answers after every video, after every topic. It can be your reality that you might get bored, you might get tired. But when you look at your goal, when you take control of your own learning, that yes, I have to watch the video and write the answer because I have to learn, not because I'm studying or somebody is forcing me to do that, but because I'm in control of my destiny and I will take control of what I learned today. Then you will never be bored and never be tired. So take it with that approach. It's all about your perspective and how you look at life, how you look at things. So without wasting any time, let's begin with this topic, multilateral development banks. Addressing poverty or politics, that's the question. So you will have to answer me this question towards the end of this video. So see, multilateral development banks, they have been making news, and why have they become very important for us? Because Finance Minister, if you have been following news recently, G20, India is holding the G20 presidency. So G20 has created an expert group to strengthen these MDBs, multilateral development banks. So what is the problem with these MDBs that they need to be strengthened? We'll look at that. And then from that expert group, there were some learnings that we got, that political will is an issue for expanding capital in MDBs. Political will is coming as the major issue. Then Larry Summers says, world watching MDBs, last chance for MDBs to make changes. So Larry Summers and Mr. N.K. Singh, they were the chairpersons of this expert group. So they have come up with their own observations. Most importantly, Economic and Political Weekly, which is, our gold mine for Phase 2 examination, it has released an article called Can the Multilateral Development Banks Deliver? Means, are they relevant anymore? What are the problems? So we have taken notes of all these articles and we have prepared today's discussion. So let's look at the relevance of this topic from your examination point of view. That is, first of all, RBI Grade B. If you look at paper 1, economic and social issues, in the globalization part, you have a topic called international economic institutions. Then you have regional economic cooperation. So in both the topics, this, MDB's topic is fitting well. In paper 3 part, that is financial systems part A, structure and functions of financial institutions is explicitly mentioned in your syllabus. So you might be asked a question regarding MDBs or one of the multilateral development banks. So be prepared with that. For NABARD Grade A, again you have role of international funding institutions, IMF, World Bank, WTO and other institutions as well. So this topic is going to be greatly important for you. For SEBI Grade A, you have this topic in under finance, alternate source of finance. So again, MDBs become important for your SEBI exam as well. So first of all, let's look at the expected question. What do you feel will the expected question look like? Will they ask you that is it a reality that MDBs are addressing politics and not poverty? See, they'll not ask you a very, a very bad kind of a question, very negative kind of a question will not be asked. The question will be very diplomatic and very straightforward. So here is one of the questions which is highly expected in Phase 2 examination. This is briefly highlight the challenges faced by multilateral development banks in achieving their objectives and answer this for 400 words, that is 10 marks. The numbering or the marking pattern for SEBI may vary. But for NABARD and RBI, this is the marking pattern that we have. So let me bring to you the answer blueprint. We always follow this answer blueprint, which is in 3 steps. That is introduction, main body, and conclusion. And your main body can have subparts to it depending upon how many parts does the question contain. EduTap toppers have followed this answer blueprint for the past 10 years and they have cleared phase 2 based on this blueprint. So definitely follow this. It will be available in the PDF you get on Telegram. So now breaking the question down and answering according to the blueprint that we have. First of all, we'll have a introduction, and in introduction we will define MDBs because that is a complex topic. I know many of you might not have the understanding regarding what are multilateral development banks. Then we'll start with giving examples, what kind of MDBs do we have. And finally, we'll also talk about a little significance or importance of MDBs for the entire world, multilateral development banks. Then in the body part, we'll address this straightforward question that has been asked from us, that is highlight the challenges. So we'll highlight the challenges in the body part. And since there is no other question, we'll conclude. We'll finally give a conclusion where we'll have a summary and we'll also have solutions. Also, we'll mention the recommendations of the G20 expert group that has become very, very important for us. So hence, all this will make our answer very forward-looking and very, high scoring. First of all, coming to multilateral development banks. Yes, I'll come to your question, Nikhil. I'll come back to that. First of all, let's understand what multilateral development banks are so that we can address this definition part. We are now following on the introduction part first. So let's talk about definition, examples, and importance. Then we'll write a good introduction for this answer. So what are multilateral development banks? Multi means they have multiple members. Development means they work for the development, and banks means because they have money. So basically, multilateral development banks get money from multiple countries or multiple funding institutions. So hence they collect this money, and the institution is known as a bank, which is MDB. This money is not used for profit making purposes. That means loans that are given from this bank, either there are grants only or loans are given which are of very low interest, because that the main purpose of this bank is for development. So multiple countries contributing, but where the money is going where the development is required. So development projects funding happens through these banks, and which leads to economic growth and development, not just for the countries which are contributing, but for the entire world. So can you name some multilateral development banks which you know about, and let me know that in the chat section before I explain to you, before I give examples. Yes, Nikhil, your question has the answer itself. So the oldest multilateral development bank is World Bank. It was established after the World War II to, bring countries out of the losses they had suffered after World War II. So here you have the World Bank Group, that is the oldest. After the World Bank Group, World Bank Group was dominated by United States of America. So after that, regional multilateral development banks also came on coming. For example, European Bank, for example, African Development Bank. This is for Europe, this is for Africa. You also know ADB, Asian Development Bank, that works for the development in Asian region. You also have Inter-American Development Bank. So other regional banks came on coming, and here is the timeline. World Bank in 1944, African Development Bank 1964, ADB 1966, and EBRD 1991. So you have multiple multilateral development banks as of now. Now I think the concept is very much clear to you. Let's write a definition and let's write some examples of it. Also we'll explain the significance. So basically, how will you start? You'll write that MDBs are basically financial institutions that provide financial support, not just financial support, technical guidance also to member countries to facilitate economic growth and lower down poverty levels. This line is not required. This is just for your understanding that unlike commercial banks, their purpose is not to maximize the profit for their shareholders. The purpose is development. So financial support and technical guidance both have to be provided by an MDB. Secondly, they work with governments. They don't work with individual citizens. They work with governments, private sector, and other stakeholders to bring development related challenges, to actually bring development and address sustainable growth. So obviously they will be preferably working in poorer countries, that is developing countries or mostly least developed countries. And who are the members of these banks? The contributing members can be developed countries and developing countries both, and the where the money is going, these are least developed countries. So members are developed and developing countries both. So it's not like that only the developed countries will be members or only the LDCs will be member. It's not like that. So make sure you mention that. Then we'll give some, why is funding from these banks favored? Because these are mostly low cost funds, mostly 0% interest rate, or let's say 1% interest rate for 100 years. The loans are such. Then we'll write some examples. World Bank, ADB, NDB, AIIB. You can write some examples. Don't forget to write examples in the introduction. That represents that you have understood the topic. And if you have to mention about the importance of MDBs. So around 2008 financial crisis, this is one such data that we are quoting. MDBs provided triple two billion dollars during the 2008 global financial crisis to help countries come out of it, to help people fight with poverty during that time, and they contributed a lot during the COVID-19 pandemic also. We do not have exact figures for that as of now. No exact figures are available, but this data is something you can quote. And you can also say that if you do not want to write just sustainable growth, you can say that they provide grants for infrastructure, energy, education, environmental sustainability, and other areas that promote development. So this is going to be a little, particular approach. This appears good when you write it in your introduction. If you have any doubts still here, just let me know in the chat section. Then we'll move on to our next section, which is let's delve deeper, and we'll also discuss the body part and conclusion. That is the main part of the answer will be discussed in this segment. So before that, let me know if you have any doubts, any additions to make. Yes, all of your answers, IMF, World Bank, ADB, NDB, all of these are correct. I'm so happy to get all these answers. If there are no doubts coming, then let's move on to the... Yes, they give long-term loans and with almost 0% zero interest rate, which is a happy situation. Which is a happy situation for these countries which cannot afford development projects on their own. They don't have the money, resources, and technical support available. Do not forget the term technical support. All right, Deepak. All right. Ashok and Sankara Rao. All right. Sankara Rao, is it your first live video? First live session? Moving on to the second part, that is body part. Let's talk about the challenges which are associated with MDBs or multilateral development banks. So what can be the most biggest challenge that can be associated with any bank? That is lack of money. A bank which does not have money, that is the biggest challenge with the bank. So the first challenge is resource constraints. You will not write lack of money. Have these fancy words in your lingo, practice them more and more so that your answers are very polished and very much intelligent. All right, so resource constraints. Second is, money could be there, but what could happen inside a bank or an institution? Probably the governance structures are not good. There are frameworks which are outdated, legal and institutional framework that is outdated. And here we'll talk about the example of World Bank, which is very old. Then there can be lack of political will and lax governance. What if the leadership, they don't want to implement some development projects in one country because they don't like that country? Then addressing climate change and emerging challenges. The aim of multilateral development banks, previously it was something else, and now their horizons are widening and they're not able to cope up with the upcoming challenges. For example, the COVID-19 pandemic, digitization, climate change, and we'll talk about all of these. This third point is going to be very important for you because that's the aim of our video. Are they addressing poverty or politics? So this is where you have to pay great attention, and the other ones are very important too. Then finally, mobilizing private capital. They are not able to do that properly. Note down how we are moving from some most important points to least important points. That is going to be your approach even in your final examination. So addressing the first part that is highlighted, that is resource constraints. See, they say that there are more than 12 multilateral development banks all over the world. Earlier, there were just one, and then we moved to 4, and now there are more than 12. But the money, collectively, the resources that they have, they hold, that has gone down. So number has increased, number of banks has increased, but the money has gone down. Also, their contribution towards development and in least development nation, in LDCs, that has gone down over time. So that is a sad reality. The relative share of assets of MDBs has steadily declined. And estimates show that the share of gross disbursements of MDBs in the GDP of recipient countries has almost halved from 1990 to less than 0.3% in 2019. So that's a very sad reality. Their resources are decreasing. All right. Also, after the COVID-19 pandemic, because they were not prepared for the COVID-19 pandemic, they actually disbursed a lot of money wherever they felt it was right, to address poverty, to address hunger, to make vaccines and medicines available all over the world. So that's why this is the second reason that they're facing resource constraints as of now, and they're fighting for their existence. Second one here is outdated legal and institutional framework. If World Bank was formed in 1944, World Bank Group was formed then obviously they have not brought many changes in their legal and institutional framework. So what they're grappling with right now is the changing power dynamics of the world. So developing countries like China and India, they don't rely on such banks a lot because they feel they are dominated by power structures of 1944. That means they're dominated by US. So current framework it was established after World War II. This content that I gave has to be included in your answers. It does not reflect the contemporary realities and aspirations of developing countries, especially those of Global South, and India is a part, not just a part, but an emerging leader of Global South, the voice of Global South. And there are rapid changes and complexities of digital ecosystem. While these MDBs, they're still focusing on file work and things like that. Moving on to third point, and political will and lax governance. What do you understand by political will here? If any country, let's say country X is a major contributor towards a multilateral development bank, let's say it contributes around 60% of the money to this bank, then wherever this money goes will be obviously dominated by X. So if the political representation or political leadership of X country does not want to send money to country A, B or C, let's say they do not like country A, the money will not go to country A no matter how many people are dying, how many people need medicines there. So political will and lax governance, because they do not have one head. 60% money is coming from one country, that is X. The other 20% could be coming from country Y. So these countries keep on fighting with each other that where should the money go. So lax governance and lack of political will. So large financial deficits and strong nationalistic sentiments in member countries. For example, if USA wants to send funds to some country, USA dominates the funding mechanism for World Bank. So if USA wants, where should the money go? Obviously, USA will not want China to have the money, or any other country which is, for example, it will not have Iran to have the money that is coming out from an MDB. Obviously. So nationalistic sentiments, they dominate, and that is where your political will comes in. And it does not ensure effective participation of developing countries. Why? Because the percentage contribution of developing countries with regards to money, when we talk about in monetary terms, that is very less in MDBs. So they do not have a voice. And funds are mostly used to pursue own foreign policy goals. For example, New Development Bank and Asia Infrastructure and Investment Bank, they are dominated by China. Their headquarters are also in China. So China uses these funds. China is a major contributor in both of these banks, and China uses these funds to fund investments in least developed countries where China needs resources from. So to develop friendly relations with those countries, the funding from NDB and AAIB is going to the countries which are good for China and not to other countries. So that is where it is pursuing its own foreign policy goals. So MDBs, are they clean? Are they transparent? Are they serving poverty, or are they serving the politics of nations? Obviously, then there are bureaucratic procedures which slow down the project implementation. So whether a project has been completed or not, how much money is required, there is always uncertainty regarding that. And hence, there is no transparency and disclosure of operations and impacts. That is where your political will and lax governance sums up. Now, talking about addressing climate change and emerging challenges. What can be the emerging challenges? Cyber attacks, changing energy needs. Most of the countries, they're developed on OPEC countries for their fuel needs. So if they have to be independent of OPEC countries, or they have to be independent of Russia, especially after Russia-Ukraine war for their fuel needs, and India is one of the examples, then they need to switch to newer technologies, nuclear technology, solar technology, electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles. Where will the money come from? MDBs have to step in, but because they have resource constraints, because they have all these problems, hence this is a challenge, that addressing climate change and emerging challenges, this is a vision that these MDBs have to set up. The current strategies and models do not support innovation and technology transfer for development solutions. especially for adaptation and resilience. So the problems here are pandemics, conflicts, and transboundary issues. This is where these are the areas where MDBs have not come into picture. They've not been very successful in technology transfer and handling or funding for such issues. Overlapping crises are there, the pandemic is there, climate change is there, and hence urgency for IMF, World Bank resources. This is a news from Reuters. This is some headline you can quote. And then you can say that climate finance in low and middle income countries, it has increased over time. So climate finance or coping with climate change is requiring more and more money. This is a report from Asian Development Bank. And now to mobilize private capital, that's your last point. Mobilizing private capital. Why will an individual, a businessman, give money to a poor country like Africa for funding medicines or vaccines when he's not getting anything in return? So that is where the role of MDBs comes into picture, that they have to actually motivate and inspire entrepreneurs which are making a lot of money to mobilize their private capital into needy areas, because MDBs, they are funded by countries, they are funded by XYZ countries. And this money is not enough, because a country, for example, a country like India, can we donate to World Bank like on an evergreen basis? We can't do that. Only the entrepreneurs which have a lot of money can do that, because they don't have any other commitments. The private money is reluctant to bear the unknown risk of new initiatives and demands excessive country risk premium. For example, a new project, for example, a solar power plant has to be set up in an African country, and World Bank says to some XYZ businessman that please invest in Africa. So this person who's actually very rich will ask why. All right. So here is where this is where the role of MDBs becomes very important in providing them assurance that you will not lose your money. So that's the end of challenges. That's the end of body part for our answer. If there are any doubts or any additions to make, let me know in the chat section. Yes, Vinu and all right. Hello everyone, Vinu and Ashok. It is okay to write only definition and example in introduction, as the question is not asking about what is MDBs. Yes, Tanu, when we start our answer, we have to talk about the topic in general. You have to give some data or examples which shows that you have great understanding regarding the topic. How MDBs are related to India and how much part is India contributing? Is this data is important? Yes, Caterpillar, India has been receiving a lot of funding from World Bank. If you know about the LPG reforms of 1990s, you must be aware that India got funding or loan from IMF and the World Bank. So it was because of these reforms that India could cope up with the balance of payment crisis that time. So MDBs are very important for us. In fact, our climate financing projects, many of them are funded by World Bank, Asian Development Bank, NDB, and other multilateral development banks. So this is very important. Now coming to the conclusion part, I always say that whenever you have to write a conclusion and there have been, some challenges or problems associated in the body part, give some solutions or a way forward in the conclusion. So what we'll do is we'll give some solutions and we'll also give a summary. The first thing that the MDBs can do is they need to be flexible. They need to have methods to leverage private capital. They need to bring in private investment. First of all, flexibility to respond to rapidly changing circumstances and providing timely support, for example, in conditions of crisis. Then what is required is create an enabling environment that attracts private capital. Entrepreneurs or people who have most of the money, they need to be assured that yes, your money will not go to waste. In fact, it's a development project that we are building. It will take time, but it will definitely give you good returns. Then finally, incorporating climate considerations, because climate change, it's not a problem that is of future. Climate change is here and we are all grappling with that. So newer technologies and newer coping mechanisms are required, and the funding has to be funding as well as technology transfer has to go to that area. Now, this is the way forward. You can quote the G20 expert committee recommendations. They have just say that the Indian G20 presidency, they set up an independent group on strengthening MDBs. So this is very important for you. Definitely write this down. Don't forget to inculcate this in your answers. And this expert group, it has recommended or proposed a triple agenda. What is triple agenda about? That these MDBs, they should increase their lending by 3 times. They should increase their funds and all of this should go, it should triple by 2030. All the functions that they're performing, it should triple by 2030. So it recommends all G20 members to agree to initiate this process. And what are these processes? Efforts to tackle global challenges, core mission of poverty reduction and shared prosperity, to triple their sustainable lending level by 2030, and to enhance their financial strength to capital adequacy requirements and general capital increases. Basically, increase your money, fund climate change, and increase your lending by 3 times. That is the triple agenda, and this has to be achieved by 2030. So definitely quote this in your answers. And that brings us to the end of this discussion. I'm again displaying the question. You will have 48 hours to send your answers to us in the comment section under this video. So it's Monday today. We will be taking answers till Wednesday 5 p.m. and here you are getting free evaluation. If this video is benefiting you, if this series is benefiting you in any way, then subscribe to the channel, like this video, and let me know in the comment section what additions you want and how is it benefiting you. I'm repeating the question for you. Briefly highlight the challenges faced by multilateral development banks in achieving their objectives. Answer for 400 words, that is for 10 marks. So if you have any doubts now, just let me know in the chat section. Premia means premium. That way, will the money be insured? Yes, Ashok, if you think of, Ashok Rathod, if you think of any other points which you feel can be added in the body, please feel free to add them. In fact, add more points in your answers all the time you're sending answers in the comment section. It will help you score better, and it will you will have more points than what other people are learning and writing. So always have this aim that 3 answers you're writing on a weekly basis. In every answer, try to add at least 1 point of your own or 1 data point or example of your own. This will help you immensely. Yes, Nikesh, that's right, that they have to be liberal while allocating such funds. Friday answer is not evaluated, Mrunal. We are evaluating those answers. So within a few minutes, you will get your evaluation done. So don't worry about that. Standard question 2 after 48 hours. Caterpillar, just in the comment section, explain this a little bit. What is ABC which EduTap mentioned in the comment section? Please contact us support for that. All right, Preet, that's a very great, that's a very good recommendation. I will definitely let my team know about it and we'll pin the important answers. All right. Should we write all the facts mentioned and revise it, because I can't and add new points until I start current affairs before December? Ananya, for now, just depend on the content that I'm teaching you and you will be good to go. You'll get great marks with the content that you're getting here. So the PDF for this discussion will be available on our Telegram channel by tomorrow morning. So before that, you can watch the video again and share your answers with us. 48 hours, guys, Wednesday 5 p.m. Before that, surely share your answers with us. And do not get tired, do not get bored. There are days when we feel that why are we doing this? But do not stop. Do not stop. Consistency is key. And thank you for this discussion. If you have any feedback here, let me know at the let me know at hello@edutap.co.in. My name is Surbhi. And you can also contact us at 8146-207-241. I'll see you with another discussion on Wednesday. And I'll wait for your answers. Make sure that you send them before time, 5 p.m. Wednesday. Thank you.